The quarter-final clash between Spain and Germany was arguably the biggest game of the Euros so far, with two nations that quickly became most people's favourites to win the whole competition. And it turned out to be an incredible game with lots of late drama, high energy football, and a lot of subtle tactical rotations with both managers trying to get the edge over their opponent. Let's take a look. Quick announcement before we get started, I have a new video on my second channel, The Coach Book, where we take a look at how video analysis is used in training and how it's translated into exercises on the pitch, and if an opposition analysis video was successful in preparing for the match at the weekend. Please go check it out, the link is in the description down below. Both Spain and Germany have proven to have a very clear tactical identity and a specific way they want to play with the ball. But it was interesting to see how both managers adapted their style of play to try and counteract each team's most dangerous players. So while both teams look to keep to the same principles that we've seen throughout the Euros, there were some differences in how they looked to press, specifically Germany, in the way they wanted to close down Spain's build-up and make it tough for them to build through the lines. So the most interesting pattern that would occur during build-up when Spain had possession was the position of Kimmich, who would be very aggressive and push up on Cucurella, meaning Sané would occupy a position more centrally on Fabian Ruiz, Havertz would try and put pressure, and most of Spain's players in the center were covered, meaning that if Spain wanted to build from the back, the only channels available to them were out wide and down the flanks. For this reason, Spain didn't really build that much throughout the game. It was very common to see Simon playing long balls into Morata, and this was a position that did work for them at times, because with Morata's hold-up play, with Rudiger and Tah all shifted over to this flank, Spain were able to get a lot of players in close proximity on this flank here, and a lot of times were able to catch Germany off guard by finding players making runs in behind because of Rudiger's position out wide and Kimmich having to run back to try and cover this position here, with Williams often picking up the ball and then being able to play through the lines and try and switching play often into Yamal, who was attacking a little bit later on in the move. So because Spain's goalkeeper was very comfortable playing these long balls into Morata or to Williams in the flank out wide on the left, it meant that the vast majority of Spain's attacks did start in the opposition's half, as they were able to control possession, and Germany realized that they couldn't press too aggressively in this initial phase because they would just get the ball played in behind them. So from these positions, Spain did adopt a pretty similar structure to what we've seen them adopt so far in the Euros. And what's interesting is that they're doing something slightly different to the other teams, especially the ones left in the competition, and that is they keep their fullbacks very deep and very wide, connected during build-up. So we see a lot of teams, especially Germany as well, when we look at them, they like to build with a back three, with Kroos dropping deep, but Spain keep a very deep line of four. And what this does is that it frees up a lot of channels in the half spaces that Spain can exploit in different ways. So in the cases where Kimmich would then move back to mark Williams in more structured attacks, it meant Sané would be the player to close down Cucurella. But if Sané stepped out too early or didn't cover the center effectively, Spain were very comfortable playing these balls into the center here. Now, these balls could be received by a number of different players. A lot of the times it was Williams moving inside, picking up the ball, maybe trying to link up play with Morata in the center of the pitch. A lot of the times it was even Cucurella who would catch the opposition off guard and make these runs, and then Williams was ready on the defensive line to attack in behind. This was a ball that was very dangerous for Spain in the first half, with Cucurella playing it into the half space for Williams on a number of different occasions. And other times it was even Morata shifting over into this position to pick up the ball, with Fabian Ruiz also hovering in this position and trying to attack in behind and disrupt Germany's defensive line. And this was the vast majority of their attacks, especially in the first half. These central channels between Sané, Emre Can, and Havertz were very dangerous and very easy for Spain to exploit because of the position of the fullbacks. Because if they didn't receive these balls through the middle, then the ball would simply go out wide and down the line, and you essentially end up with the same effect of getting the ball forward and cutting out Germany's whole midfield line. This was the theme for Spain during the first half, and a lot of their chances did come from this left inside channel and these combinations between Nico Williams, Morata and Cucurella, but a lot of chances also came because of their very aggressive high press and their counter-pressing structure. And Spain were very good and very efficient at closing down any of Germany's midfield, making it very difficult for them to get time on the ball. Specifically, when Germany wanted to build their attacks and would move the ball out wide and forward, these balls into the strikers, into Havertz, Sané or Gundogan, were very quickly closed down by Spain's midfield, and they made it very, very difficult for Germany to build through the middle. But as the game progressed, they did gain more control of the ball, and the way they wanted to create their chances was similar to what we've seen in previous matches. So as we know, Germany, while they start with a 4-2-3-1, this very quickly becomes a 3-3-1-3 shape. Now, the first rotation that occurs is the position of Toni Kroos, and A lot of times he drops as this left-sided centre-back, but in this game he was very active all over the back three, so he often popped up in the middle of the pitch, and also on the right with Rudiger more centrally, sometimes even Rudiger out wide and Kimmich pushing even further up the pitch. But this back three is how Germany want to build all their attacks. And this back three does allow Germany to push their fullbacks really high and really wide. And it's a very interesting way they want to create their chances because it allows them to exploit their biggest strength, which is this overload of players in the center. Now, in the first half, this was quite difficult for them to take advantage of, but as their game progressed and they were able to get Wirtz into the pitch as well, these overloads became even more crucial. But essentially, by having this back three, you force Spain's attacking press to make a choice. Do you either want to go man for man and leave the wing backs with a lot of space, with Cucurella, for example, in a 2v1 with the winger and the fullback, or do you drop your pressing line a little bit more, and not wanting to get overloaded in the back line, but you allow Germany to get control of the match and get control of the pitch and suffocate you in your own half? This was a choice that Spain made later on in the game, but for the first half, they were quite comfortable pressing high up the pitch. And if the ball did go out wide for Germany, then we did see a lot of these runs into the half spaces. A lot of the times it was Sane making these runs, receiving the ball from Kimmich. Sometimes the ball would be played into this central cluster, freeing up players. And then, for example, there was a nice move with Havertz picking up the ball, finding Kimmich on the overlap in this position. But lots of different combinations that can cause a lot of issues. And it's similar patterns that we've seen that led to their goals during the group stages and in the knockout rounds as well, with these combinations freeing up a player behind the defensive line that can then play it across the box with lots of late runs into the box. And it's one of the reasons why maybe we're not seeing too many strikers be effective at these Euros, because these tactics mean that a lot of teams have compact defensive lines, and it does leave space on the edge of the box for late runs for players to finish off the move. Now, at the start of the second half was instantly when Spain were able to get their goal in the 51st minute, and this came from Morata being able to lay the ball off into Yamal. And as the defensive line went into very deep position, it was a very clever run from Dani Olmo to pick up the ball on the edge of the box and finish off the move. Now, instantly, as Spain went ahead, Germany went on the front foot and tried to get the game back as quickly as possible. And one thing that I like to see from Nagelsmann is that he didn't wait to make his substitutions. And in the 60th minute, there were already some big changes in Germany's structure and the players bringing on into the game. The first change was the left back, Mittelstadt, coming on for Raum. And then we had Gundogan being replaced by Füllkrug as the striker, meaning Havertz had a little bit more of an attacking midfielder role in the second half. And the introduction of Füllkrug as one of the strikers did mean Germany wanted to cross the ball into the box a lot more frequently. And we did see the fullbacks being able to push even further up the pitch and trying to deliver the ball more frequently into the box, with Füllkrug trying to knock it down into Havertz, Wirtz and Musiala, which is how they did get their goal later on in the game. But essentially, this was Germany's game plan until they were able to get the equalizer, with Spain being condensed into their own box, trying to defend with as many players as possible and trying to stop these overloads from Germany in the center of the pitch. As Germany gained more control of the game and consistently were delivering these balls into the box, and it became increasingly dangerous for Spain to deal with, then both teams made some more changes. And it was here where Germany went all out attack and Spain went all out defense. The changes from Spain were interesting, and it did completely change their structure. So Yamal made way for Ferran Torres, who acted as the right winger. Morata made way for Marino, and Oyarzabal came on for Nico Williams. And for Germany, Tah made way for Müller, who moved into midfield, with Andrich acting as the extra centre-back alongside Rudiger. Now, this was an interesting change from Spain, because Marino is a central defensive midfielder, and he was being used as the striker to try and put pressure and try and rush Germany's back three. And this did work at times. They were able to scrap these passes as much as possible. The rest of Spain was quite deep in this central position, but they were able to rush these passes and try and disrupt these spaces out wide, because Spain knew that if the ball made it out wide here, then it was going to be difficult for them to consistently stop these balls into the box. So by making it difficult for them to play this initial pass, by having two players that are very aggressive in the initial press, with Germany trying to stretch out and create more space for them to receive the ball, it did slow down Germany's attacks to a certain extent. However, they could only hold on for so long, and Germany eventually did get their equalizer by continuously crossing these balls into the box. And the goal did come from exactly this situation, with a great delivery from Mittelstadt back onto the second post, with Kimmich knocking it down into the path of Wirtz. So going into extra time, Germany had the much better structure compared to Spain, because Spain had made a lot of defensive substitutions and their formation was a little bit hard to understand exactly what they wanted to do, switching to a 4-4-2 but with no striker or wingers up top to create chances. But Spain did also make some important changes, with Olmo moving over to the left flank and Joselu making way for Ruiz, meaning Merino could now adopt to his more natural position as a midfielder, and Spain now had a more cohesive attack. And it's exactly from these situations where they were able to get their goal late on in the game, with a great ball from Dani Olmo into the box and Merino heading home to put Spain ahead with only 1 minute left on the clock. Now, the game was overshadowed somewhat by some dodgy refereeing decisions, specifically a handball on Cucurella that was not even checked by VAR, with Spain scoring very swiftly after this took place in extra time. Can we just talk about Cucurella's face as well after the handball? Because that is the face of someone who knows he's just gotten away with murder. But the dodgy refereeing did make it an extremely entertaining game, and Spain were able to just edge past Germany in a thrilling quarterfinal clash between two of the best nations at the Euros. But I'm curious to know what you thought of this match and how far do you think Spain will go at the Euros. And thank you so much to Milos for becoming the first member of the Football Meta YouTube channel. If you guys want access to exclusive content and shoutouts during the video, then please consider becoming a member of the channel and help support Football Meta. Thank you so much for watching.